Welcome back, Dive Bomber fans. We're continuing the build series for our quick 56 Chevy Gasser, and today is a holiday. It's National Wheel Well Relocation Day. So we're utilizing the stock tank, so we got some straps, factory straps, but all the bracketry's gone. So we made our own brackets and made our own square holes with our square hole driller. So real quick here, when I ordered all the parts for the 56, not all of them, but I ordered a big batch of parts. One of the things I get is a driveline safety loop, and I get them on eBay. They're cheap. They're so cheap that I can't spend the time and build them. So, but the only thing I use is this loop. There's a couple other brackets that come off there, but what we do is we grind the zinc coating off, we weld them together, and then we'll put a tube on there that connects. And this goes behind the tranny and the tranny crossmember. The yoke, this has to be within 6 inches of the driveline yoke, and it'll help make the car or the frame more solid, as there's only 2 crossmembers on an original frame. So it'll help stiffen it up. Plus, we've got a driveline safety loop, and I think they're like under 30 bucks. Okay, so the rear end is located where we want it at ride height, and the current tire diameter is 25.5 inches. We want to run a 29.5 inch tall tire. So 25.5 is here, plus 2 inches, that'll be where the top of the tire would be. And then we want to have about a 3-inch reveal here so the tire doesn't hit this. So what we're going to do, that's going to be our mark of the top apex of our radius. And then we're going to come down straight down to here. This side, we're going to have to build something and make it look more like a 55 wheel opening. So when we cut this out, we're going to leave it for now until the front end gets on here. We get our wheels bought and tires inflated and all that stuff. And then we're going to double check the measurement on our shock shaft. And then we're going to compare it to how much actual clearance we have after we get the weight on it and everything. And we want to give ourselves probably another 1/2 inch just for body roll. And then that'll dictate whether we cut it out more or if we can keep this wheel opening and then put our lip on there. So we'll take like a 1/2 inch round tubing and tack it all the way around. So it'll give us a nice little like lip, just like that. This is what we're trying to achieve, is something kind of factory-ish, but not just a jagged edge. So I went to Coastal the other day and got bolts, and I was checking out. Nicely gave me a pencil for carpentry that I don't do, but it's going to work awesome because it's long and it's flat, and I can stick it on this flat deflated tire and walk it around. But I'm going to get up here and make sure that I'm doing it. Yeah. Okay, put this back on here. Exactly where I had it. Bang. Okay. Alrighty. Looks amazing. Okay, so now we're going to swap our little setup to the other side. Get it centered, run her a little, and then we can also measure all the way to the apex forward, make sure we're not any further over. Okay. Shit, more crap in my way. There's going to be a lot of feelings hurt in the making of this video. Darn old batteries. Continue. All right, that concludes our episode of how to devalue a Tri-5 Chevy. Join us next week when we teach you how to respond to your wife's question of... Okay, so we took the 56 and we got it off the lift and put it on flat level concrete. Then we put it on jack stands as tall as I could get it, and then we got the car as level as we possibly could. We shimmed the jack stands on one side, and it just makes putting a subframe on there and getting it on there straighter a lot easier. So the first thing you want to do, obviously get your front wrap off there, motor, all that stuff. And then before you start cutting, the measurements we need are from the ground to this pad. So we're not going to move the car until this is all done. So that distance needs to be written on the fire. What I usually do is write it on the firewall. You should also take a picture of it, and just in case you write it on a piece of tape and tape disappears or whatever. The other measurement also is, normally I'll measure it from the door to the center of the wheel. We don't have doors on here, but we're just going to pick a measure or pick a place to measure from, and we need that measurement, whether it's, you know, if you want to do it wheelbase, whatever. But that's all these measurements are going to help us get the subframe on there where we need it. Our cross member will sit right where this core support pad used to be, and essentially that's how we'll gauge our height on our subframe. So a lot of what we got going on here is wasted. But like, I'm not going to measure down here because I had so much damage, but it doesn't really matter where you measure from. It's just we need to get that centered, and we're going to do a couple other measurements to make sure we're in the right spot. But this just kind of helps you get it in the ballpark, and then we can fine tune it from there. So let's get the other side marked, or measured and marked. So right where these two frame pieces come in, there's a little V notch right here. Measure back about 3 inches, and then make a mark all the way around on both sides. And then also right before you cut, take a piece of round tube or angle iron and get a crossbar in there somewhere at or behind where the forward body mount is. As soon as we cut this off, there's going to be no support other than the body, and we definitely don't want it to spring in any direction. Okay, so before we start cutting, you just want to make sure you got your pad to ground measurement, your wheelbase and or door to center of axle, wheel, your crossbar. You've obviously measured all the way around 3 inches past the V groove. And I always take the plasma cutter and I cut from the bottom and then cut the inside. So that way you can do the top and the outside, so you're kind of more away from this thing. So we have the jack, my jack that bleeds down, conveniently located right there. I'll get those cut out, get this couple little pumps. Also note, you may want to take a 5th jack stand, put it in the very, very, very back of the frame. I don't know, maybe put all the extra parts in the trunk. I don't think it'll go anywhere, but always be safe than sorry, because that's a lot of weight. It's going to come off here. So let's get to cutting. Yahtzee. So on the inside here, there's sleeves where the steering box the bolts go through so it doesn't crush the frame. That little inside bracey thingy is holding us up. Or it's a piece of slag. I don't know. Let's shoot fireballs at it. Doggy. Doggy. Shit. Heck, part of doing everything by yourself if you're doing it by yourself. Okay. Okay, I dropped a little piece down inside the frame so I'm gonna get a little magnet and I can yank it out of there. Fire. There's a wrench down there. You see our fire down there? That was awesome. Slag. What size do you think it's going to be? Click. Comments. How did that get inside the frame? That's what I want to know. Some poor sucker was having a bad day, I tell you what. He's like, oh, I'll help you, I'll just do it. Oh, man. It's a combination. 3/8, 7/16 by S.K. Wayne. Bang. If this is your wrench, hit us up in the comments. 3007, whatever that means. Zip tie. That wasn't magnetic. Okay. That's all the big stuff. We'll get our little vacuum. We'll get our vacuum and vacuum that out. Let's see if there's more wrenches on the other side, though. Let's make sure there's no treasures on this side. No. Bunch of crap. But we'll get our big pieces out, and then we'll take our vacuum and vacuum it out. Our long wand. Get this all ready to go. And then I'll get this out of the way and go grab our subframe for our gasser kit. Brought to you by Pacific Tool and Gauge. So one thing I did not mention, I did not support the rear of the car by the axle. I held up the rear part of the frame. So definitely have that fifth jack stand. So you're either a Chevy, Ford, or Dodge guy if you're a truck guy or car guy at all. But everybody's favorite truck just pulled in the driveway. Let's go check it out. Oh yeah, you guys are gonna love this. Make sure my mic was on. Check it out, guys. Every car guy's favorite truck. Dun, dun, dun. So one of the stipulations on building this gasser for my customer is he requested one of my Ford 9-inch fabricated housings. So between me and my buddy, we had some machines that we were able to make fabricated Ford 9-inch housings, and most of our fast cars have them in them. Unfortunately, my friend is no longer with us, and I just have too many things going on. So I called up my buddies at Quick Performance, told them the situation, said, I need to get a fabricated housing my customer doesn't want to see a stock 4.9 inch in his gasser, so they hooked me up with this really nice fabricated housing. It's got a back brace on it. The welds look beautiful. I ordered this with 35 spline axles and a specified 5/8 wheel studs. A lot of our cars back in the day, as we were getting faster, were bending all the 1/2 inch studs. So that's like a standard thing with us. So I had them not weld the perches on here because I'm going to put ladder bars on it. And it came with the studs for the third member. I got a fill plug. I got a drain plug with it's got a tube or like a little rim on it up in the center of it and not hurt the drain plug. And this is going to be a badass piece for this machine. So now it's time to get the subframe all cleaned up and ready to put on our frame. And there's a couple indentations in the original frame that we cut out. And then it's just a matter of taking a grinder and squaring up the original frame a little bit, get it clean from any debris, and then we stick our subframe in there. Now we have this adjustable jack stand to help us get the subframe cross member to the measurement that we have on our firewall. And then I put this angle iron on the subframe so that way we can get a roughed in measurement for our side to side. This just gives us a close measurement of the subframe. Then we will get the suspension mocked up in there with our axle at 7 degrees and do some more cross measuring and wheelbase measurements. Of course, when we get close, we'll just add a tack, and then we'll start throwing bushings in our leaf springs and get front suspension mocked up. Now it's time for cross measuring and more measuring, and pretty much any movement that you make, you need to recheck all your measurements. So we're going to mock up the axle right now, and we're going to use the U-bolts that are supplied, but we're not going to use the nylocks. I usually get packages of 7/16 fine jam nuts because we're probably going to be pulling this on and off the car a few times. We're at a 115-inch wheelbase, and we're going to move it another 1/2 inch forward because we're not running a front bumper or grille on that, so there's going to be a thinner portion of the front end versus the back part of the fender. So it's just a visual thing to where if I increase the wheelbase a 1/2 inch, it's going to look more centered in the wheel well versus if it had all the junk hanging off the front of it. So when we put our gasser kits together, this comes in the kit, and we make this bracket and we clean all the anodizing off and just kind of give it a little backbone, a little bit more strength. We try to overbuild everything that we can here on our gasser kits so that way you can abuse it, because we do. Okay, so now that we got the leaf springs in there and we kind of just mocked up the shackle towards sitting where it needs to be at 31 and 5/8 inches from center of front leaf eyelet to the top of the shackle spring hanger. I just have a jack in the middle of it, and it's just holding just enough tension there. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just measuring the side-to-side measurement just to make sure the axle is centered in the spring perches. And we are at 7.5 degrees tilted back. Just gotta find my hammer. I just tack welded the very tip of the spring perch because that's a really easy place to cut the tacks if we need to roll the axle for more or less caster. All right, thanks for joining us on another episode of Dive Bomber's Garage. Next time we'll be tackling the boxing plates and getting the subframe fully welded onto the frame. Plus we'll be getting our front brake kit onto our spindles and hopefully making this thing a roller. Best way to support the channel, give us a like, subscribe, and go to our website, divebombersgarage.com, and get yourself a cool shirt.